Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 17th, 2021 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. Hope everybody's well tonight. Good seeing you all, at least virtually. First up is, well, we don't have minutes tonight. I think staff has informed us of that, so we'll defer that until next meeting. So the first item we have tonight is a record plat agenda, which was added just recently. So Greg, are you setting that up or?
Yeah, I can do that. So we have two record plats for the Planning Commission tonight, Plat RP-8750-2021 and RP-8751-2021. Both plats are for the Crown subdivision. They've been reviewed by staff and are ready for your review tonight.
Okay, are there any questions on the record plots from anyone?
Nope.
All right, is there a motion, please?
Chairman, I move that we accept the record plats as read into the record.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Winborn.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up is a public hearing, and we won't be making any final findings on this tonight. However, it is a public hearing on ASDP-8733-2020, 333 Ellington Boulevard, and this is to amend Crown Neighborhood 1 Schematic Development Plan SDP 11-001 in the MXD Mixed Use Development Zone. Again, it's an amendment to the Schematic Development Plan, and presenting from staff is Jasmine Forbes. Good evening, Jasmine.
IT staff can have packet page number 5, please. So this is a public hearing on amendment to Schematic Development Plan application ASDP-8733-2020 for the property located at 333 Ellington Boulevard. Next page, please. As shown on the monitor, the subject property that's highlighted in yellow is located at the corner of Ellington Boulevard and Diamondback Drive and is part of Crown Neighborhood 1 development. The applicant is requesting to amend previously approved Schematic Development Plan SDP-11-001 to include an additional story and the overall maximum building height allowance of 75 feet for a new multifamily building. On April 4th of 2011, the Mayor and City Council approved SDP 11-001 for the Crown Neighborhood 1 development. This subject property was approved for a 5-story multifamily building with a maximum height of 75 feet. The application was presented to the Mayor and City Council as a courtesy review during their January 19th meeting. The council deemed the application to have a minor effect and directed the Planning Commission to hold the public hearing and make a final decision on the amendment. The hearing was duly advertised on January 28th and February 4th in the Washington Post and published on the city's website on January 28th. At the present time, there are 11 exhibits in the record files. They are referenced in an exhibit list in the files. The individual exhibits may be reviewed on the city website and at City Hall during regular office hours. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibit should be noted prior to the closing of the record. Otherwise, they'll be deemed received in evidence. And I will have Heather from Warren Gill, who will start the presentation. Can I have the next page, please? Okay, Heather, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I unmuted my computer. Now I had to unmute my screen. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It's nice to see everybody virtually. As Ms. Forbes indicated, my name is Heather Delapolsky. I'm a land use and zoning attorney with the law firm of Wire Gill. Was previously with Lanoes and Blocker, which I'm sure folks have heard of that firm. And I'm here tonight representing the applicant in the case. You can see on the screen right now, this is actually our full project team. We don't have representatives of every single one of these entities here tonight, but I did just want to note the folks who we do have joining the meeting from our team. I anticipate that I will be the only one speaking affirmatively, but we do have other folks who are available to answer any questions that you may have. So we have here Brian Condy and Trey Kirby, both representatives with the applicant in this case. And then we have Chip Baker, who is with Dwell Design Studio, our architects. I think Ms. Forbes in her staff report materials did an excellent job sort of summarizing the request that is here before you in this case. And obviously there's a good amount of materials in the record as well for your review. So maybe if we could just go to slide, I believe it's 8. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. So I'll just give a brief overview. We did include these few images that I'm going to show this evening in the staff packet. Anyway, just wanted to give a few explanatory remarks here. So this slide, this is an excerpt from the originally approved SDP. So as Ms. Ford mentioned, approved back in 2011. You can see here the 5-story multifamily use originally noted for this site. And shown in red is basically the portion of the project that is proposed for 5 stories. And we have highlighted in blue right at the corner of Diamondback and Ellington, just the very small portion of the building that, if you approve this application, would actually present as 6 stories. And as I think was pretty well documented in all of the staff materials, essentially the reason for that, and anybody who goes out to the site, I think you can see that it very much slopes from here, what's shown as sort of the upper left corner, so sort of the northern corner, down to the southern corner. And actually, interestingly, as I'm sure you're all very familiar with Crown and with the site, when you get right to that corner at Diamondback and Ellington, you can kind of see almost that the site just tips a bit further. It's very actually striking when you're out there. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Okay, and so we thought, sorry, let me just click over here. We thought that this image would be helpful. I think it really sort of illustrates the grade that we are dealing with on the site. So the red line illustrates the grade of the first floor, which essentially is the first floor through the vast majority of the site. And you can see in the top image how that grade falls along Diamondback Drive. And then in the bottom image, that's an image along Ellington. And you can see how the grade falls even more precipitously along Ellington and right down to essentially that bottom corner where the site just tips down. And if we could go to the next image, please. Great, thank you. And so on this sheet, again, a similar image, but this is taken from the corner of Diamondback and Ellington itself. And you can see there really sort of the fallout of the bottom of the first floor resulting in that 6th story. And you can see here that this is the main pedestrian entrance proposed into the building. So again, I think it was pretty well documented in the materials, but you know, the grades on the site and the adjoining road grades are things that were set back quite a while ago, not something that the applicant in this case has any control over. So it's a situation that we're sort of just working with here. And again, you can see, I think in the materials that there's just that tip off right at the bottom corner there. And that's that one place where this presents as 6 stories. And as was documented in the application materials, because of the SDP saying that this is limited to 5 stories, and because the leasing office is proposed on the ground floor right at the corner that you're looking at, we needed to do essentially this, I think, sort of notational revision to permit 6 stories in this location. But again, this is all well within the maximum 75 feet in height established by the SDP previously. So we are not seeking to increase the height at all. So that's really substantively everything I wanted to say. I did just want to note one other thing. We held a meeting with the community back in January, on January 21st. We mailed notices to everyone that would be on the city's mailing list for a project on this site. So in essence, everybody who received notice for this hearing received notice for our community meeting. And of course, we held it virtually. It was very well attended. And then we subsequently had a number of phone calls with folks from the community, including a virtual call with several neighbors in the Copley on February 5th. So we've had a lot of contact with the community. We absolutely think communication and transparency are vital. So we are doing our best to embody that and really to continue open dialogues and lines of conversation with our neighbors as we proceed through this process. So I don't have anything further to say affirmatively in terms of public hearing testimony, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, we have 3 of our team members here as well, who would also be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you very much. And we're going to go to the public in just a moment, and I'll ask the tech team to play a video in just a second. But I want to just clarify a couple of points from your presentation. And if you go back to the rendering that was up just as you were finishing up, it might be easier for me to refer to that in asking the question. Great, thank you. So effectively, you're tucking this 6th story kind of underneath the building as opposed to adding a story on top to sort of make up for the change in grade, I guess, diagrammatically anyway.
Yeah.
But in so doing that, would you have added any, does that add any units to the building overall? Because you're essentially now taking it out of a floor that initially would have been the leasing office, right?
Right. So maybe I may ask our architect to weigh in, but we do not have any units proposed on that bottom sort of tucked out or tucked in floor, as you may say. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, no, what I'm thinking is it would have been on the first floor, assuming this was on a flat grade site originally, which is probably what the assumption was. Then on the first floor, whatever that was, would have had the corner taken out to do the leasing office.
Right.
Now it's got its own story kind of below that, say sub first floor. And now units I assume could fill in that, so it would net a few more units than what you originally assumed, or were you not that far along yet on laying out the building?
Heather, can I jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Brian Condi. I'm with Fairfield Residential. The answer to the question is no, we're not utilizing that space for any additional units.
Okay.
By right, I believe, of what units counts are remaining to be used on site, is roughly around 247. We're actually not even maxing that unit count out. We're below that. So we're not taking advantage of any space given to us by adding the sixth floor to add additional units to this space. Really, it's to allow for this to be since it's the most prominent corner, if what's the Ellington and Diamondback, is to utilize that as our main entrance, our lobby, our visibility area, and to allow our business operations of our leasing to be permitted there.
Okay, great. All right, that's all I had. Commissioners, any other questions before we go to the public?
I just have one, and I think it may be more for Jasmine, just on making sure I understand that the technicalities of what's really the basis of this meeting and this amendment here tonight. If instead of putting their leasing office on the corner, the applicant or the design of this project had a drive-in parking garage, under the building, if there were 20 parking spaces tucked in under that corner, that would not be an issue according to the zoning code. This is only because they're putting business operations down there, correct?
Yep, that's correct. If you look in our city code for a basement, that floor meets the definition, and it further goes in, if you're using this space for any sort of business purposes, then that counts as a story.
What about if it was a mechanical room? I'm specifically asking here because I think that the key point that I want to make sure we all understand and that the public understands correctly is that this actually has very little to do with architecture or height. It's really about the technicalities of the zoning code and what defines a story.
Yep, that's correct. If that bottom floor just contained like just mechanical equipment, then it would have not counted as a story, and we wouldn't be here with this application, the amendment.
Or if the grade had remained flat. Yeah.
Or if we didn't have the leasing office in that location.
Right. All right, any other questions? No, all right. So tech team, I think we do have some attendees. I'm not sure how many are looking at this one or the next one, but so that we offer the opportunity for them to speak on this one, would you please play the video?
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
All right, it's remarkable how you can do that the same way every time. I don't know how you do it. All right, I'm looking at the attendees list and I don't see any hands going up. So let's do this. Well, I'll keep it open. So if somebody does jump in and want to say something, that would be great. Let's go ahead and go to the commission, or excuse me, to the staff recommendation, please, Jasmine.
So staff recommends that the Planning Commission to hold the record open for 8 days on February 25th, with anticipated recommendation on March 3rd.
Okay, great, thanks. I think on the face of it, this is really, Phil, you were sort of zeroing in on it. It's really a technicality, and quite frankly, you know, given that there is a grade drop, I'd much rather see this on the tall corner than a service space that just happened to take up some basement space that was peeking out from the higher grade. So I think this is a very worthwhile improvement and use of it, and I'm happy to see it move forward with the technicality corrected on the story calculations. But commissioners, please jump in.
I'll jump in and agree with you. It's good analysis, Phil, and I think I would just add that this could be considered the back corner. You know, it's the block away from the sort of gravitational center of the neighborhood, and so that we have a live used corner at that piece is a big bonus. That actually, you know, perhaps this change in grade pushed that core south and allowed something that was going to be active and vibrant, you know, a block away from where a lot of the rest of the commercial activity is. I think it's great. It's wonderful. It's a win-win. So I'm all in.
Great. Lloyd, I saw your hand go up, please.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the attorney, was there any pushback during those sessions with the neighbors? Apparently you've had a lot of meetings and I think it's great. I really appreciate the transparency and the openness, but has there been any pushback with respect to that particular corner?
Yeah, I would say that the neighbors who were the most concerned, and as he said, we did have the official meeting, but then numerous people had called me individually just to ask some questions, and then we did have a meeting with some of the representatives of the condo association at the Copley. So I would say most of the neighbors who have expressed concerns have been in the Copley. I think in the outset of the community meeting, and our team can jump in and you know, clarify if they feel this needs clarification, but I think at the outset there was concern about the height. It seemed to me that sort of when they understood that the 6-story portion was really actually at the furthest corner away from them, that I'm not going to say that there's nobody with concerns about it, but it did seem that alleviated the story, quote unquote, the 6-story concern. Truthfully, and you may all have heard this already, the biggest concerns we're hearing are traffic and safety with regards to vehicles and pedestrians. And I think, to be candid, our team actually shares those concerns too. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess for the purposes of respecting whatever public record was generated from this, the concerns about safety, Jasmine, I think that's come back to staff for monitoring in some form.
Yes, I believe it was mentioned at the last meeting there was concern. So I believe we requested for staff to look into that. Okay. Because those are no small concerns, even though they're not necessarily directly related to this application, that we have that legitimate feedback is not a bad thing, and it's worth following up on. All right, good. I have seen no hands go up on this one. So commissioners, any other concerns before we move forward? Or any reservations with approving it? No? Okay, very good. Okay, so the recommendation is that we close our record tonight, but excuse me, let me just close the public hearing and close the public hearing, hold the public record open until 5 p.m. on February 25th, 2021. That's another 8 days. And then we would put it on our agenda for March 3rd for final action. And that gives anybody who's looking in on this time to, again, for another 8 days until February 25th, to email, write a letter, notify staff that they have other concerns that they want to enter into the record. And then we would include that in our discussion on March 3rd. So if nobody has any objections to that, essentially we would need a motion then to close the public hearing and then hold the record open until February 25th.
Chairman, I move.
So moved.
So moved. All right. I can make the full motion if you'd like, John.
Is there a second, please? One of you can be the second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And I'll call the roll for the vote. Commissioner Wessel.
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman.
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn.
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Thank you very much. And thank you to the applicants team. It's a
Thank you.
nicely done presentation. Thank you. And we will
Thank you
see
for
everybody
coming,
back here on March 3rd.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye.
All right. And then that takes us to our site plan agenda. And we have one of those tonight for AFP-8700-2020 comprehensive sign. I assume it's a sign package for the Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center in the CD Corridor Development Zone And this will be an amendment to the final site plan. And Jasmine is sticking around for this one as well. So thank you, Jasmine, for sticking around for this one as well. Jump in, please.
So staff is before you to present amendment to final site plan application AFP-8700-2020. The applicant's requesting approval of the comprehensive sign package for the Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center. Sign package is part of an overall effort by the shopping center to upgrade and modernize the existing shopping center with a contemporary sign aesthetic. So the center is located at the corner of North Frederick Avenue and Perring Parkway. This application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance with Section 24-210, which allows the Planning Commission to grant a minor waiver to approve a comprehensive sign package for a property or development that includes provisions that deviate from the sign ordinance, which this sign package contains some signs that do deviate from the city sign ordinance. And I will have Christine from Federal Realty who will start the presentation. And can I have the packet number?
I believe it's packet page 121. As the
Yes.
presentation.
Thank you.
And you can go to page 124. Oh, this is a location plan. So my name is Christine McGurl. I'm with Federal Realty, owner of Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center. And as Jasmine had alluded to, we are about to embark upon a renovation of the shopping center. Our contractor is actually mobilizing next week, and we hope to be finished by November 1 of this year. So as part of that, we would like to replace all of the signs on the property. All of the signs, most, if not all of them, are non-conforming signs. I was going back through our files. I think the last time we renovated the shopping center at the time these signs were installed, I think it was almost 30 years ago. It was 1994.
Wow.
So these signs are faded and they're just of an outdated design. So we would like to replace all of them to align with the architecture of our renovation. And I'll share some of those design concepts with you as we go through the package. So as Jasmine also mentioned, because these signs are non-conforming, we are seeking waivers for height, location, and size for some of these different signs. So if you could go to page 128, please. This just shows the different materials and colors that we're proposing for the signs, wood and metal, and a color palette that aligns with the renovation. Next page, please. This is the A sign. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the existing photos of these signs. They're very large signs that exist today. The existing signs are 15 feet high. And our proposed signs are 14 feet 8 inches. So the height is being reduced a little bit. However, we would seek a waiver for the height on this particular sign. And one thing I wanted to mention is, as you look at the design of these signs, we're incorporating some designs and a color palette, like texture. It's a very diverse community. And so we are using the textures, colors, and shapes that come from those diverse cultures. So you'll see different patterns throughout the signs as we scroll through here. Next page, please. This is the B sign. Again, it's replacing an existing sign. The existing sign is 3 foot 6 inches high, and this one will be 3 foot 8 inches high, and the length will be slightly shorter. So it's essentially just replacing what's there today. Next. This is replacing a smaller sign. The proposed sign is much longer than what exists today. Again, the existing photos in the bottom right-hand corner. We think that this will create a better experience entering the center off of 355. There's cars that park right along there. And so this kind of acts as a screen to the parking and creates a more interesting experience entering the property. Next, please. These are directional signs. Again, we do have some directional signs throughout the property. We are replacing all of them and placing them in more strategic locations to get people through the center and to also alert them of the parking in the rear of the center. Next. This is the D2 sign. This is more of an artistic sign that we hope to put, maybe some whimsical signage on there, like Colorado Springs, 1,600 miles, or, some fun directory locations on this sign. And this will be in the pedestrian way near our storefronts. And this is a new sign. A sign type like this does not exist today. Next. This is the wall-mounted directional sign. Again, one exists today. The existing sign is 15 feet, almost 16 feet high. We are reducing the height of the sign to 12 foot 6 inches and also reducing the width of the sign. The purpose of this sign is to direct people to the retail tenants that we have on the side and rear of our center, as well as directing them to additional parking. Next. As part of the package, we propose to replace all of the tenant blade signs. Currently, the tenant blade signs are attached to pedestrian light poles that are out by the curb, and we will be removing those and placing these on the building facade. So we have several different brackets and shapes and designs. Again, all the colors and textures align with the renovation. Next. Just again, showing the different variety of the blade signs that we're proposing. Next. So along the main entry into the property, off of 355, we're proposing some sculptural art pieces. We did put these in here in the comprehensive sign package because they are more robust structures. And the metals that you see here will be very comparable to the metals that you will see on the signs themselves. Again, this is really just creating a more interesting experience for people entering the property. They will have the textures and the color, and they will be lit. Next. Again, just kind of showing the different varying heights and dimensions of these art pieces along the main entry. Next, I think that might be the last page. And then this sign here, this is an existing Bank of America sign. Again, it's a non-conforming sign. The tenant would like to reface the sign, but because of the height, we are seeking a waiver. They're not changing the height. The height will remain the same. The square footage will remain the same. We're simply just refacing it. Next. I think that might be the last page. So that's essentially what we're proposing today. And here with me as well is Nicole Hovermail with Younce Design and Dylan Macro with MHG to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Just let me get it started here, and I'll open it up to everyone. But the entry point along Frederick Avenue, where the sort of sculptural elements are, they're not specifically signed, but they're sort of part of the program. Would there also be a directional there for entrance into the shopping center?
No, there's no directional there. There's the monument sign that has tenant names along the main road. Then you have the sculptural pieces, and then the property identification.
That's actually what I'm sorry. Yeah. So can you pull up a plan that shows the relative position of the sculptural elements and the actual signage that would be at that point of entry?
You can bring up packet page 124.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So sign A, that is one of the directory signs that has tenant names on it. What you see J there, those are the sculptural pieces. And then C is the sign that says Gaithersburg Square, the long linear monument sign.
Okay, so the sight line, the sight angle of kind of the view shed or the ability to see those sculptural elements really only happens once you're committed to being on the site. They don't do anything to really, I guess, draw attention to the area right from the road.
Well, we're hoping that you will be able to see it from the road, but essentially, yes, once you're on the property, you will be able to see them.
Okay, and then the large multi-tenant sign that's off of the circle or adjacent to the circle. Are you, and I don't remember what page it is, I'm sorry, but are you proposing exactly the number of tenants that are showing on there? Or are you looking for some flexibility to use more, I guess I say fewer but larger panels, or more and smaller panels, or will it be limited to just those few that you've got shown?
So that would be page 129, if you could pull that up. We're proposing to add 4 additional tenant panels here. As you see in the existing sign in the right-hand corner, a lot of the height comes from that weird like half circular feature there. So we are using the area more efficiently to get 4 additional tenant panels.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm assuming you'll have more than 10 tenants that might want space on this board, right? Or are you really talking about just 10? I've actually lost track, but I would guess there's more than 10 tenants in the whole center, right?
There are,
Yeah.
yes.
But you would, so how would you decide who gets one, or would you?
So typically, it would probably be some of the newer tenants that we're trying to attract to the property. It's generally something that we use as kind of a sales tool.
Okay.
To get people to come to our center.
Because I think what struck me was, given the real estate you have dedicated to this monument, you could conceivably get another 5, or, you know, with the right sort of finessing of the panels, you could get more on there if there wasn't so much space dedicated to the branding of the center itself. But
yes, we could. At some point, it just becomes, I think, a little too chaotic at some point. Yeah, I feel like this is the right number, and it just
okay,
looks and feels better.
Fair enough. All right, commissioners, any questions, please?
Yeah, I have one clarifying one. For sign types B and C, my first reaction when I saw the elevation, they're the sort of black and white, the ones that are presented as black and white in the packet. My first reaction, I think if you just skip forward like 2 pages.
Next page, yeah.
Next page. My first reaction to both of these was that they're very jarring and impossible to read. And then I realized that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, these are actually perforated metal. So it's not going to be white behind it. You're going to have cars and bushes and whatever. Like if you dropped a picture, if you dropped some bushes behind the sign, it would be much easier to read, which is what the reality is going to be on site.
Correct. It is perforated metal. Yes.
Okay. So you're not going to have the graphic issue of white letters on a white background. It's going to be transparent to whatever's behind it.
Correct.
So that was actually, these 2 signs were the only concern I had with the whole packet, and it took me a while to realize what was going on, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Hey, John, this is Lloyd.
Sure.
I've got a question regarding the sculptures. Can we consult, or can you consult with staff regarding art in public places? In other words, perhaps a theme that would be more involved with Gaithersburg rather than just a plain piece of sculpture. Could you consult with the with staff and I guess we have a Art in Public Places Committee. Jasmine, does that still exist?
Right. We still have arts in public places.
We do, and actually the applicant and the Art Public Places coordinator have actually already touched base. So there's already been some communication with them about some of the artwork they're doing in the center, because they're also doing additional artwork, some murals as well. And Christine, you can actually, if you want to expand upon that. But there is more than just the structures. The reason why the structures were included in this packet is, and again, they're not considered a sign per our code, was because we did need a site plan approval to review those under. And so we thought it was best to include it as part of this. So we had a way to review it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for the clarification.
Good comment, Lloyd. All right, anybody else?
Just a quick question. On the tenant blades, there's quite a few options, obviously, that you've left in here, but to me, it's almost not enough options. Like I think it's your architecture's great. It's a big center. You're really talking about something at the close pedestrian eyeball level. I would even support a little additional language here that gives you a little more flexibility to build a sign shape around a logo or a brand that was, you know, unique to that tenant. And maybe the hanger still has your sort of common elements to it, or the frame, you know, around the logo has the same finish to it. But I think you could probably write a you know, a constraint, a design constraint that would allow them to do something even a little more personalized. And I think that would fit into your bigger scheme. And I would certainly be supportive of that on these, you know, very individualistic pedestrian oriented signs.
Yeah, and I appreciate that comment. You know, these are typically guides that we give to our tenants, but certainly to avoid that monotony, we are, you know, certainly open to that variation as well.
But I think for sake of argument, if a logo had a normal field, a square field, for example, there'd be no reason to just isolate a square inside a rectangle. We'll go ahead and make the frame square, right? I mean, if it was a, you know, that would be sort of the spirit of this, not necessarily use a lot of wacky, you know, shapes just for the sake of it, but if they were already branding within a certain geometric constraint and it could be hung as a sign frame, why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it was a dog groomer and it was shaped like a dog, and you know, that could be a lot of fun, right?
Mhm.
That's my only thought.
Sounds good. All right, any other questions, issues?
Yeah, this is Danny.
Danny,
Yeah, I want to thank Phil. I was having the same kind of little, but he has more of a three-dimensional eye than I do. I'm a really two-dimensional person, so I appreciate that, because the first time I saw B and C, I went yikes, and so I was thankful for that clarification. But I did want to ask a quick question. First of all, I did want to comment. I like the playfulness of the G in the square, and you know, that logo, and that's pretty you know, inventive. I like that, you know, Gaithersburg Square, a G in a square. Anyway, but I did want to ask, is there any backlighting or channel lighting, or they're all just there's no lighting in any of the signs? Because I didn't see it in any of the documentation.
Yeah, Nicole, could you speak to that? I think most of the signs are lit, but I'll let her answer that question.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so this one is the G on the sign does have halo lighting,
Okay.
and the tenant panels are internally lit.
Okay.
So that is listed over. It's not shown. It's easier not to illustrate lighting.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you read through this, it'll explain which signs have lighting. A lot of them are, these ones have more internal lighting, but a couple of the other ones are externally lit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. If there aren't any other questions, I will, at least for the record, ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak. And you saw the presentation for raising your hand, but I'm also noticing that under the attendee tab, there really isn't anybody. There's one person logged in. So I'm going to assume that we don't have anything from the public on this, at least at this moment. So Jasmine, why don't you go ahead and do the recommendation? I'll keep an eye on this panel in case anybody does want to speak.
So staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant AFP-8700-2020 Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center Comprehensive Sign Package, provided in compliance with sections 24-170, 24-172, and 24-213, subsection A of the City Code.
Great, thank you. I think, I mean, to the applicant's team overall, you know, this is really in keeping with the improvements that are coming to Gaithersburg Square. Nice job, frankly. It's really a well done package. I think from my perspective, I was focusing primarily on the signs that are an interface from the public to the property as opposed to everything on property, because I will assume that you'll make your tenants happy with the way you're presenting the brands in sort of a comprehensive way. But what I do pay attention to specifically and carefully is especially from the circle, is the signage that gets you off the circle and into the center, or doesn't distract too much from those that are trying to make it around the circle. And I think you've done a nice job of balancing that. So, and I appreciate your comments about why it was 10 tenants and not more, and how that sign comes together. Because I agree with you, seeing it at least graphically, I don't know yet in person, but it is a real nice balance that likely be a little less noisy and more easily understood than probably what's out there now. And I shared Phil's concern about what was going on with some of those artistically inspired or pattern inspired signs. But again, because they're really on site for sort of a more of a directional quality, even if they had a little bit less than the most vibrant and vivid legibility, they add a lot of nice texture and a lot of nice quality to the site. So nice work there. And I would echo Matt's recommendation that the frames or the field for the tenant signs could take on a much more tailored look based on their own branding and their own logo compositions, whatever they're using for signatures. Almost to the point that I'd almost rather see you do an extents diagram and let the shape be whatever it needs to be. So, you might do the outer extents of how big it can be from, 3 directions, 4 directions, but whatever makes sense. Maybe a constant bracket detail like Matt said, but then the rest of it really, let it be the tenant's decision how best to present that and what shape. But again, it's on site and it's part of your marketing and your leasing practice. So what you've shown is not bad, but I think we're all expressing a little bit of a at least an opportunity to take it a little bit further, just to give it a little bit more interest. But overall, nice job. So I've done all the talking. I apologize for that. Commissioners, any other thoughts, please?
I would like to commend Federal Realty for putting a shopping center that's been around for quite a while, to refreshing it and making it lively again and making it a good center for the city again.
Yeah.
And bringing back some really unique tenants, hopefully.
Thank you. We appreciate the support. Thank you.
Is Chuck E. Cheese still closed? I mean,
They're closed.
oh,
Yes.
Your kids still celebrating over there, John?
I had to
miss
go
all
there.
that I miss all the chaos.
That is so funny you brought that up, John. My son was cleaning out his room, and he's graduated from college, and he found a bunch of Chuck E. Cheese coins and said, "Dad, what am I gonna do with these?"
Oh well, memories.
I'll add that in 1994, I just started at DNC Architects, and I was rendering one of the elevations of this center way back when. So there was
Okay.
so, but that doesn't prejudice me against whatever you're doing. But I'll add that there's a certain curse to being capable, right? And I often joke about the fact that we have a higher standard for those that can actually do higher work. After the elevations came in, I know we sort of warned about the signage, meeting the high standards you set for the center, and I think you've exceeded that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And, even when we set the bar high, you managed to still get over it. So that's it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. By the way, are you going to do any kind of identity stuff, graphic stuff on the light poles themselves?
No.
Banners, whatever. Okay.
No banners.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments, Phil? Danny?
Nope, I'm good.
No, just I really like the G and the square. That's really innovative.
Worked. That's amazing.
All right. When you guys develop some swag for promoting the center with the little G logo, make sure Danny
Yeah, make sure I get one.
the care package.
For sure.
That's funny. All right. So if there's no other concerns, why don't we go ahead and move this forward to approval? I saw nobody jump in on the attendee side for comment. Commissioners, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, testimony, and the staff report's findings and recommendations, grant AFP 8700-2020 Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center comprehensive sign package, finding it in compliance with section 24-170, 24-172A, and 24-213A of the City Code.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and with our roll call vote, Commissioner Wessel,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Winborn,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Nice work.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Presentation.
Best
Appreciate
wishes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Mhm.
All right, have a good evening, everyone. All right, that takes us to from the commission, and I'll just work across the grid here, I guess. Matt, anything tonight?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Phil, anything tonight?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. Danny?
Yeah, just one quick thing. Maryland Planning Commission Association is working on our annual conference, and we're very ambitious because it's going to be at the end of October, and we're hoping that it will be in person. But there's a lot that has to happen before that happens.
Yeah.
But we're planning on it to be in Calvert County, and we're planning a very, very exciting conference. And I mean, we're planning like a boat ride and the Calvert Marine Museum tour. We're trying to make it very, very nice, and every time that we give one of these things, we want to spotlight different, areas of Maryland. So we're hoping that we can pull that off. But of course, I'll have more information later. But if we can get this whole vaccine thing together, hopefully we can have it on site. So
that's exciting.
I
When's
just
it going to
give
be?
you kind of a. Go ahead.
When's it going to be at the beach in August? I'm just.
We'll have to get around to that one day.
That's exciting. When you say Calvert County, I apologize for the lack of geography knowledge here.
That's like Solomon's.
Solomon's, okay.
Yeah, in that area. Yeah.
Yep. That'd be fantastic. Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Danny. Lloyd, anything tonight?
Just be safe and watch what you do tomorrow.
Fair enough. All right. Greg, John, you guys want to jump in?
Just some dates to remind the commission about. The next planning commission meeting is March 3rd. And then we have a number of joint public hearings and a joint work session coming up. March 8th is a joint work session in Lake Forest Mall. And then we have 3 joint public hearings, one March 15th, March 5th, and April 19th. I believe Miriam has sent you guys all email reminders about it, and that's for your availability. So if you could just get back to her when you can.
Sorry,
please,
you said March 5th. You said March 5th, Greg?
March 8th.
April 5th. I apologize. April 5th.
and,
March 15th, April 5th, and April 19th.
Yeah, and Miriam's been really good about sending meeting invites, so it drops right into my calendar. I can say yes and forget about it until at least a couple days before. And please, please thank Rob Robinson for forwarding the look ahead on how the master plan work will be done over the next couple of fiscal years.
Yep,
I always have to
definitely
stop and think about what that means. Does the fiscal year start with the year that's there, or does it end with that year? I always have to look that up.
I will let him know.
Thank you. John, thanks for joining us tonight. Any news from the head office?
Absolutely. I just wanted to kind of add to the discussion tonight that it's so great to see federal investing in Gaithersburg Square. And, I know this has been going on for a while. I think they're going to start construction very soon. And it's pretty exciting because it's, one of our major goals is more investment on the east side of the city, and that's what's happening there. And speaking of that, your March 8th work session is focused on the Lake Forest Mall Master Plan Amendment. Rob Robinson, Kirk Eby, and Laura Mahfood have been working incredibly hard. And they have what I believe to be very close to the final first draft of the master plan amendment that will go in the council's package this coming Friday for that work session. So we're getting very close, and it's looking really good.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. Great. Actually, I want to piggyback on something you said about investment in the city, and I did 2 things I want to mention. We went through you all, frankly, staff did most of the heavy lifting, a planning exercise to figure out how to make a drive-through work in a pedestrian-oriented development area. And I'm talking about the Starbucks at Catlins. And I have to say, seeing it there was a lot of interesting kind of discussion leading up to that, but seeing it now in reality, it works. I think it's a wonderful model about how to both get traffic and pedestrians, reconciled. Even include some forward-thinking stormwater management techniques. The whole sort of thing. I'm not endorsing Starbucks. To be clear, on a public meeting, I'm not endorsing the business per se, but I think the planning strategies that ultimately played out there really are a wonderful proof of concept for how that can all be done in a pedestrian oriented area. So nice work to the entire staff for doing that. And then right around the corner from them, be curious, and you don't have to answer at this moment, but I know we approved a site plan for redevelopment of the restaurant site right a block from there, the old O'Donnell site. But it seems to have stalled. The building is in pretty bad shape, and there doesn't seem to be much activity around there right now. So I don't know if you guys have any news on that, or if you want to bring that back later.
I don't, John. I did ask Saul for an update on their schedule about a week ago, and I was promised it this week, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
We actually have a meeting with Saul tomorrow, so I will bring that up. It's not on Catlin Square, it's on another issue, but I will bring that up.
Excellent, thank you. All right, anything else from anybody tonight? No? All right, well, stay safe, stay warm. See you in a couple of weeks. Have a good night. We're adjourned.
Good night.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.